Let's get straight to it. You're driving home, maybe it's late, maybe you're tired. Flashing lights explode in your mirror. You pull over, heart pounding, palms sweating. The officer walks up, shines a light through your window and says, "Step out of the car." Now your instincts split. One side says, "Just comply, don't make it worse." The other says, "Wait, do they even have the right?" This moment, right here, is where most people lose control. Not because they're wrong, but because they don't understand how the law actually works in real time. And when you don't understand it, your body betrays you. Your sympathetic nervous system kicks in. Fight, flight, or freeze. Your heart rate spikes, cortisol floods your bloodstream, and your decision-making narrows. You can't think clearly, you can't recall your rights, and suddenly, a routine stop turns into something far worse. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you the strategic framework, the exact mental and verbal tools you need whenever a cop tries to force you out of your vehicle. These are not cop-baiting tactics or viral tricks. This is how you maintain control within the boundaries of the law, calmly, legally, and intelligently. I'm a lawyer. I've reviewed hundreds of traffic stop videos, defended clients in suppression hearings, and watched body cam footage where a single wrong sentence cost someone their freedom. What I'm giving you is distilled from real cases and real statutes. Let's get into it. Tip 1. Understand the legal threshold. Reasonable suspicion versus probable cause. Problem: most people don't understand the difference, and officers often use that confusion to escalate a stop. When they tell you to step out, they're either relying on reasonable suspicion or probable cause. You need to know the difference, because your rights hinge on that line. Solution: reasonable suspicion is the lowest threshold. It's based on specific, articulable facts that a crime might be occurring. For example, weaving within your lane, nervous behavior, or a smell of alcohol. It's enough to detain you temporarily. But probable cause means they have evidence or facts strong enough that a reasonable person would believe you've committed a crime. That's what allows arrest or a full search. So, when an officer says, "Step out of the car," they don't automatically have probable cause. Under Pennsylvania v. Mims, 1977, the Supreme Court ruled that police can order a driver out of the car during a lawful traffic stop for officer safety, but that doesn't give them permission to search you or your car. Why it works? Because when you understand that distinction, you don't panic. You know that stepping out doesn't mean you've lost your rights. It just means they're asserting a safety prerogative, which you can comply with while still asserting every other protection. You say calmly, "Officer, I'll step out for your safety, but I do not consent to any searches." That single sentence keeps your Fourth Amendment shield intact. Your brain settles when you have structure. Physiologically, knowing the boundaries lowers cortisol and increases parasympathetic activation. You regain control of tone and posture. Control of body language equals control of perception. Tip number 2, control the frame with calm compliance without voluntary surrender. Problem: people confuse cooperation with surrender. When your stress response spikes, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational judgment, goes offline. That's why you see shaky hands, rapid speech, unnecessary explanations. Those physiological signals read as guilt to officers trained in behavioral detection. Solution: you control the frame by staying deliberate, move slowly, speak slowly, ask clear questions. If told to step out, do so calmly. Keep your hands visible. Don't slam the door, don't fidget. Once you're out, lock the door behind you without being obvious about it. You can legally do that. There is no obligation to leave your vehicle unlocked unless ordered otherwise. Locking it quietly prevents unlawful searches under the guise of plain view or protective sweep. If the officer asks, "Why do you lock it?" you respond, "Just habit, officer. My personal property stays secure." You've said nothing incriminating. You've just shut down a whole vector of exposure. Why it works: when you slow your pace, your parasympathetic system, specifically the vagus nerve, activates, stabilizing your heart rate and tone. You appear calm and rational. Officers subconsciously mirror that energy. It de-escalates tension and minimizes the likelihood of force. The calm body is strategic armor. Every second you appear controlled, you gain credibility if the footage ever ends up in court. Tip number 3, ask the anchor question. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Problem: without a clear boundary, the encounter drifts. The officer keeps probing, fishing for probable cause. You get drawn into small talk, consented searches, and statements that later justify escalation. Solution: once you're out of the vehicle and the initial order is complete, ask the anchor question. Tone low, face neutral. Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go? You're not challenging authority, you're clarifying legal status. If the officer says, You're detained, you stay silent beyond identifying information. License, registration, insurance, no explanations, no commentary. Just, I understand, officer. If they say, you're free to go, you go. Immediately. Don't linger. Don't re-engage. Why it works? The question forces the officer to articulate the legal basis for the stop. That articulation, or lack of one, becomes crucial evidence if the encounter escalates or footage is reviewed. Courts look for clear moments where a detention was extended without justification. This line draws that timestamp. Neurologically, asking that question also flips your brain from reactive to executive function. It re-engages reasoning, giving you a sense of agency. That's how you reclaim mental control mid-encounter. Tip just 4. Know the search boundaries, what they can and cannot do once you're out. Problem. People think being ordered out of the car automatically gives police the right to search. It doesn't. This is where most unlawful searches begin, under the false premise of compliance. Solution: understand these 4 categories of searches. 1. Consent searches. If you say sure or go ahead, that's all they need. Always say, I don't consent to any searches. Calm, firm, no hostility. 2. Probable cause searches. This happens if they smell marijuana, see contraband in plain view, or have a K9 alert. But odor alone has become legally controversial, especially in states where possession is partially legalized. 3. Inventory searches. Only apply if your car is being towed, and even then, limited to cataloging property. 4. Protective sweeps. If they believe there's an immediate safety risk, like a weapon, they can briefly look in reachable areas, but not tear the car apart. If you're out and they start looking around, you calmly repeat, Officer, I don't consent to any searches. Then stay silent. Don't argue. Don't block them physically. The objection itself preserves your standing to challenge it later in court. Why it works. The Fourth Amendment operates like a muscle. You must assert it to keep it alive. Silence without objection can be interpreted as consent. Verbal objection creates a record. That record is often what wins suppression hearings. The ability to show that the search exceeded lawful scope despite a clear refusal. And physiologically, verbalizing your boundary gives your nervous system a focal point. It channels your adrenaline into structure. That structure keeps your voice steady and your breathing regular. It turns panic into posture. Tip: don't argue. Document. Problem. Adrenaline makes you want to fight back verbally. You think you're defending yourself, but what you're actually doing is giving the state evidence. Every argument, every accusation, every "you can't do that" becomes a data point of agitation, later interpreted as resistance or non-compliance. Solution: replace reaction with observation. If you believe your rights are being violated, document quietly. Use your phone's voice or video function, ideally in hands-free mode. You can legally record police and public interactions as long as you're not interfering. If they object, you say, I'm recording for my safety and yours. Then stop talking. If they say, turn it off, respond, I'm invoking my right to record a public officer in the course of their duties. If they still try to stop you, fine. Comply under protest and note the time, date, and agency name mentally. That becomes evidence later. Why it works. The camera reframes behavior, both yours and theirs. When you know there's an objective record, your body language stabilizes. You're less likely to make impulsive statements. Officers knowing they're being recorded statistically reduce escalation behaviors. It's a mutual accountability tool that favors whoever remains composed. Tip number 6. Recognize psychological pressure tactics and the science behind them. Problem. Police training includes behavioral manipulation, not maliciously but strategically. Officers are taught to use command presence, tone shifts, and pacing to create compliance under stress. They know your body's physiology works against you. When someone with authority raises their voice or invades your space, your amygdala spikes, cortisol floods, and your brain shifts to short-term compliance mode. That's the freeze part of fight-flight freeze. Solution. The key is cognitive distance. You need to create a mental buffer, a half-second delay between stimulus and response. Breathe through your nose, exhale slowly, and slightly lower your shoulders. These micro-actions signal your nervous system to calm. When your breathing regulates, your vagal tone increases, which literally stabilizes your heart rhythm and restores prefrontal activity. That's where reason lives. When an officer says, if you've got nothing to hide, you won't mind if I look, you don't react emotionally. You calmly respond, Officer, I understand your position, but I don't consent to any searches. That sentence is your anchor. It tells them you're unshaken, and it tells your own body that you're back in control. Why it works. Psychological studies on stress inoculation show that predictable verbal routines override panic impulses. The phrase becomes a conditioned cue, like an internal shield that maintains cognitive distance. That's how professionals, my negotiators, special operators, trial lawyers, maintain composure under pressure. You can too. Tip number 7. Don't explain. Don't fill silence. Problem. People equate silence with suspicion. They think, if I don't explain, it'll look bad. So they start talking about where they're going, what they were doing, why they're nervous. But here's the truth. Everything you say after identifying yourself can and will be used to justify further detention. You think you're clarifying? In reality, you're expanding the scope of lawful inquiry. For instance, where are you headed tonight? Most people answer automatically, just home from a friend's place. That gives the officer a timeline, an implied route, and potential pretext for inconsistencies. Solution: break the reflex. You are not required to answer investigative questions, only to provide identification during a lawful stop. The correct response: Officer, I'm not answering any questions. That's it. Neutral tone, no edge, no sarcasm. Then silence. Why it works? Because silence collapses the conversational loop. It removes fuel. Officers trained in elicitation depend on conversational flow to draw admissions. You disrupt that rhythm. Your body also benefits. You prevent verbal overextension, which often happens when adrenaline forces rapid speech. The slower your mouth moves, the calmer your body stays. And if the silence feels uncomfortable, good. That discomfort means your nervous system is reprogramming. You're learning to stay composed under authority pressure. That's emotional discipline, and it's the backbone of self-protection. Tip number 8: control your hands, eyes, and voice. Problem: even if you say all the right words, your body language can betray fear or hostility. Law enforcement training, from human behavior pattern recognition to verbal judo, teaches officers to read micro behaviors: clenched fists, shifting stance, eye darting, voice tremor. Those cues can be misread as aggression or guilt. Solution: your job is to project predictable calm, hands visible at all times, resting on the steering wheel before you exit, palms open when you step out, slow movements. No sudden gestures toward pockets or the car interior. Eye contact: maintain it intermittently, not constantly. Direct, not defiant. Sustained, locked eye contact can trigger dominance perception. Officers may interpret it as challenge. Instead, steady glances, relaxed jaw. Voice tone should be mid-range and deliberate. The moment your tone spikes, their pulse spikes. Physiological mirroring works both ways. Your calm regulates theirs. Why it works? Because the nervous system communicates faster than words. The human brain detects tension in microseconds via mirror neurons. When you maintain calm physiology, it signals non-threat subconsciously. Officers relax, and the chance of escalation drops sharply. This is why professionals rehearse these interactions. You can literally train your body to stay neutral under pressure through controlled breathing and visualization. Before you drive, run a mental drill. Lights flash, heart races, you breathe, you stabilize. That mental rehearsal builds neurological preparedness. Tip number 9. Identify manipulative friendliness. Problem: not all pressure is aggressive. Some officers use a soft tone, the good cop dynamic. They act disarmingly casual. Hey man, I'm not trying to hassle you, I just need to take a quick look, okay? That's not friendliness. It's tactical empathy. It's a trained method to make you voluntarily surrender rights. Solution: recognize it for what it is. Rapport-based compliance building. It's not personal. You don't have to be rude, but you must stay consistent. Friendly tone or not, your response remains identical. Officer, I don't consent to any searches. Or Officer, I'm choosing to remain silent. Never mirror friendliness with self-disclosure. Rapport builds psychological reciprocity, the feeling you owe cooperation. By keeping your tone calm but boundaries firm, you maintain respect without exposure. Why it works? Because rapport only converts into compliance when there's emotional mirroring. You break that circuit by decoupling tone from content. Calm, polite, consistent, but immovable. Your nervous system stays steady because you're not wrestling with guilt or guilt-induced compliance. You're operating on principle, not emotion. Tip number 10. Know when silence protects you and when to verbally assert. Problem: some people go completely silent, thinking absolute quiet is protection. But silence without context can be interpreted as confusion or defiance. You need strategic silence, deliberate, signposted by short, lawful statements. Solution: use your assertion phrases as verbal fences. There are 3 core ones. 1. I don't consent to any searches. 2. I'm choosing to remain silent. 3. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Those are your only verbal anchors. Once spoken, silence resumes. If officers repeat questions, you don't engage. Why it works? Because law requires clear invocation. Courts have ruled that ambiguous silence, like shrugging or muttering, "I guess I don't want to talk," isn't enough. You must clearly assert the right for it to apply. From a control standpoint, these short sentences serve another role. They regulate speech pacing. You keep your breath steady, tone low, and your nervous system stable. That rhythmic consistency builds psychological dominance, a signal of composure under duress. Tip number 11. Prepare before it happens. Conditioning your nervous system. Problem: you can't control your stress reaction in the moment if you've never trained it before. Most people's heart rate spikes to 150 plus beats per minute during police interactions. At that level, fine motor control and rational speech degrade rapidly. Solution: you need preconditioning. Use these 3 drills. Controlled exposure. Visualize the entire stop scenario once a week. Lights, sirens, questions. Rehearse your breathing and phrases. Visualization activates the same neural pathways as real experience. Paced breathing. Inhale 4 seconds through the nose. Exhale 6 seconds through the mouth. That pattern stimulates the vagus nerve and lowers blood pressure in real time. Micro rehearsal. While driving, occasionally practice resting your hands on the wheel, keeping posture upright and saying softly, "I don't consent to any searches." This conditions familiarity, so the phrase feels natural under pressure. Why it works. The nervous system doesn't differentiate much between rehearsed and real stress if the imagery is vivid. Practicing in calm conditions builds neural tolerance. When the real event occurs, your physiology recognizes the pattern and remains regulated. That's why trained professionals appear unshakable. They've seen the scenario internally 1,000 times. Tip Jacques 12. Understand the officer safety loophole and how to navigate it. Problem: for officer safety is the most common justification for commanding you out of the car. It's legally broad and often misused. Courts defer heavily to officer discretion in safety matters, which means your best defense isn't confrontation, it's documentation and verbal boundaries. Solution: when they cite officer safety, comply with physical directives, step out, keep hands visible, but immediately reestablish your legal position. Understood, officer, I'll comply, but I don't consent to any searches. That shows cooperation without surrender. If they begin searching or probing beyond immediate safety, your earlier statement preserves your record. If it escalates to physical removal, never resist physically. That converts a rights violation into a criminal charge. Why it works. Courts distinguish nonviolent verbal objection from physical resistance. You can preserve your entire legal standing by staying verbal only. The record then shows compliance with commands but firm invocation of rights. Tip 13. Immediately write everything down while your memory is fresh. Problem: adrenaline distorts memory. Within minutes of a stressful encounter, your brain begins to rewrite details subconsciously to fill in gaps. That's normal physiology. The hippocampus struggles to encode under high cortisol load. Solution: the moment you're safe, take 10 minutes and write down everything. Time, location, officer names, badge numbers, words used, exact phrasing, number of cars, any witnesses. The more detail, the stronger the credibility of your record. If you recorded the encounter, back it up immediately. To the cloud, not just your device. Never alter the file. Raw metadata is powerful evidence of authenticity. Why it works. Written recollection created close in time to the event carries evidentiary weight. Courts treat contemporaneous notes as reliable because they're less influenced by later reflection. More importantly, the act of writing itself helps you decompress more now. You shift your nervous system from reactive to reflective, lowering adrenaline and restoring balance. Tip 14. Never post or comment publicly about the encounter. Problem: people rush to social media to tell their side. That's a mistake. Anything you post can be subpoenaed and introduced in court. Casual phrasing, sarcasm, even emotional venting can be interpreted as admissions or contradictions. Solution: go silent publicly. No tweets, no Instagram stories, no venting on Reddit or TikTok. Document privately, talk only to counsel, and preserve every file. If you want to share your story later for education, wait until resolution. Do not hand the state evidence under the illusion of catharsis. Why it works. Strategic silence protects both legal integrity and mental recovery. It prevents you from re-triggering the event emotionally, allowing your nervous system to return to baseline. Every time you retell the story publicly, your brain relives the stress response. You can't heal or think strategically if you're stuck in reaction mode. Tip 15. File a record request even if no charges are filed. Problem: people think if they weren't arrested, the incident is over, but that stop is now a record in a government database. Officers may have generated reports, audio, or body cam footage that will remain accessible internally. Solution: file a public records request under your state's open records law. Ask for all body cam, dash cam, and incident reports related to your stop. Specify date, time, and location. Even if you never use it legally, obtaining that record ensures transparency and deters misconduct. Why it works. You take control of the narrative. Body cam footage is objective evidence, and it disappears if you wait too long. Many jurisdictions automatically delete footage within 60 and 180 days. Early requests preserve your right to review it later. Psychologically, this action restores agency. You're converting helplessness into procedure, transforming trauma into data. That's strategic recovery. Tip number 16. Consult counsel, even for minor stops. Problem. People think lawyers are only for big cases, but even small citations or vehicle searches can have long-term consequences. Insurance hikes, record notations, license points, or unchallenged Fourth Amendment violations that later justify repeat stops. Solution. Consult counsel early. Even a brief consultation can uncover procedural flaws, lack of reasonable suspicion, unlawful detention length, or invalid consent. Lawyers can also send preservation letters to ensure footage and data aren't deleted. Why it works. Early intervention changes the power dynamic. When officers and departments know you're represented, they become procedural, less likely to stonewall or dismiss your complaints. Legally, your counsel can reframe the event from subject of stop to potential civil claimant. That shift alters the entire bureaucratic posture toward your case. And on a body level, knowing you have representation lowers chronic cortisol. Legal anxiety is physical stress. Professional support breaks that loop. Tip 17. Build a personal rights kit. Problem. In the heat of the moment, people forget what to say. You can't rely on memory when adrenaline hijacks your cognition. Solution. Create a small laminated card. Your rights kit. It should include your 3 assertion phrases. I don't consent to any searches. I'm choosing to remain silent. And am I being detained or am I free to go? Your attorney's contact info. A short statement. I wish to speak with my lawyer before answering any questions. Keep it in your wallet or visor. In a high-stress encounter, you can literally hand it to the officer. Why it works. Physical cues anchor mental stability. Having a tangible reference interrupts panic. It also protects against memory lapses and prevents you from blurting out impulsive answers. It's like a checklist for pilots. Simple, reliable, designed for chaos. Tip team. Train emotional neutrality. After the fact, problem. After a tense encounter, the body stays in hypervigilance for days or weeks. That can manifest as insomnia, irritability, or fear of authority. Without debriefing, your nervous system anchors the stress response to similar cues, like flashing lights or sirens. Solution. Practice structured decompression, controlled breathing, journaling, and brief mental replay without judgment. Walk through the incident factually, not emotionally. This activates cognitive processing rather than emotional reliving. If the experience was traumatic, consider therapy, specifically trauma-informed counseling. That's not weakness, that's recalibration. Why it works. Trauma physiology relies on unprocessed stress loops. When you reframe the event rationally, your brain's prefrontal cortex reasserts dominance over the amygdala. You move from survival mode to learning mode, converting fear into resilience. Tip 19. Build preventative habits. Reduce stop likelihood. Problem. The best defense is not having the encounter. Many stops begin with minor preventable triggers, expired tags, broken taillights, or obstructed plates. Solution. Schedule a monthly compliance check. Verify lights, registration, insurance, and tint limits. Keep your vehicle clean and organized. No visible clutter or objects that can be misinterpreted. If you carry legal items like firearms, know your jurisdiction's transport requirements precisely. Unfamiliarity invites tension. Why it works. Legal risk multiplies through small oversights. A clean vehicle, proper documentation, and calm demeanor eliminate the most common pretext for reasonable suspicion. Prevention is strategic control before conflict even begins. And the psychological benefit? Reduced baseline anxiety. You drive knowing you're legally fortified. Tip 20. Transform knowledge into collective power. Problem. Most people learn these lessons after damage is done. Knowledge trapped in isolation protects only one person. Solution. Teach it. Share calmly, not through outrage, but education. Help your friends, family, and community understand their rights and physiological responses during encounters. The more people stay composed and informed, the harder it becomes for fear-based escalation to define the culture of policing. Why it works. Empowerment is contagious. Collective composure shifts societal dynamics from panic to procedural control. When citizens operate with confidence and officers encounter calm, respectful boundaries repeatedly, the entire feedback loop evolves toward mutual professionalism. That's real reform, not slogans, but discipline. So let's tie this together. When police try to force you out of your car, the moment isn't about power, as it's about control of self. The law gives them authority, but your knowledge gives you structure. Your physiology, your words, your calm, these are shields far stronger than defiance or fear. Remember the framework. 1. Comply safely with commands. 2. Assert rights verbally, not physically. 3. Control breath and tone. 4. Document, Don't argue. 5. Recover strategically and act deliberately afterward. Because this isn't just about one stop. It's about setting a precedent for you, for your family, for anyone who's ever felt that flash of panic in their chest when blue lights filled their mirror. You can transform that panic into presence. That's the goal of all this. Not rebellion, not submission, but mastery. Mastery of self under authority pressure. If this helped you, internalize it, practice it, share it. The more informed we are, the safer we all become, citizens and officers alike. That's the mission. Calm strength through knowledge. Not fear, not anger, just disciplined awareness. Because control isn't given, it's trained. And when that moment comes, flashing lights, pounding heart, command to step out, you'll know exactly what to do. Stay calm, stay smart, stay free. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.